Hi, my name's Tamra and I'm the mother of Emma. Emma was the youngest of our three daughters. I have two older daughters. She was always very outgoing. The other girls used to think she was a little bit spoilt. She was a high achiever. She was very involved in her high school years with making the world a better place. When she was at university, she was the state director for an organisation called Oak Tree, which was the biggest Australian youth-run organisation against poverty. Whilst at uni, she went to Guatemala and volunteered for 8 weeks in an orphanage for disabled children. On the completion of university, she then went off to East Timor and worked for an aid company there, helping out with programs for people with disabilities. When Emma was in East Timor, she did quite a bit of scuba diving, and it was actually her dive master, as she was taking her wetsuit off, that noticed the mole on her shoulder. She was due to come home for her sister's wedding, so we booked her straight into the GP. They removed the mole and it was sent to pathology and then further sent down to Sydney to get more studies done on it. Diagnosed at 21, stage 1. They did a wider incision, so it was about 10 centimetre cut down her shoulder to get that wider incision. At that point, a surgeon told us that there would be only a 5% chance that there was ever any further involvement into lymph nodes or anything, and that it was imperative that every 3 months she would need checks. But unfortunately, Emma was in that 5%. It had gone to her lymph nodes. So a year later, she was stage 3, had lymph nodes removed from underneath her arm, and progressed to stage 4 very quickly. So then she went on some treatment, and it actually had no impact. It actually made it worse. It had spread further. It was at that point that she was given maybe 6 months to live. She was then put on, very lucky to get on a trial for Keytruda immunotherapy, and not knowing how she was going to respond to it, but we had to bring her wedding forward, which we did, and amazingly, she had nearly a total response, and that 3 to 6 months that we were given went to 3.5 years. Well, so one of her greatest achievements was her blog, Dear Melanoma, and she has over 28,700 followers. So we know her blog's finished with her last one. We now use melanoma for increasing her sun-safe awareness, keeping people up to date with what's going on with melanoma, promoting the march. We have do a fundraiser as well every year through the Looking Glass, which Emma started as well. So she dedicated her life to raising awareness and raising funds predominantly for the Melanoma Institute, for clinical trials, etc., because that's what gave her the extra time. She started her blog, and she used her blog as a way to vent. She did a lot of, interviews for the Queensland Cancer Council. She was in, magazines, newspapers, on television. It was just more just getting her story out there, and also being able to help a lot of other people. She started a fundraiser called Through the Looking Glass. She ran that in 2015 and 2016, and then this year we did one as well, and we will continue on it as a yearly event. She was involved in the melanoma march. She started an online shop in 2016 called Love Emma. And that's another thing that my husband and I continue, and all the proceeds from that business now go to cancer research. That's what she did right basically to the day, you know, she passed away. I honestly don't know what it's going to take. It's something that people have to take on board. Parents have to educate their children. You'll go down the coast or up the coast and you'll see people laying on the beach, you know, like it's so hard sometimes to actually not go and tap them on the shoulder and say, you know, this is what you're going to do to yourself, because the majority of them are going to end up with a melanoma. But I think also people have this mindset is that, you know, they talk about all this wonderful news about there being drugs and, you know, the immunotherapy, and that is great, as giving people, you know, people are becoming, you know, having no evidence of disease, but there is still a massive portion of people that those treatments aren't working for. So that mentality that, oh, well, if I've got a spot, I'll just cut it out and I'll be right, you know, you can't think that way. I'd like to see, you know, you see the vans going around with, you know, for the breast cancer, the mammograms. I'd love to see something like that for skin checks. You know, it's more than just going to your GP and getting your skin checked. You need to make sure that the person you're going to see has got the right equipment. Because if they haven't, I mean, so many times I've heard, you know, friends say, oh, you know, I got this checked on my arm, but the GP said it'll be fine, we'll just watch it. And he didn't even, like, he just visually looked at it. You know, to go to some of these dermatologists, they are expensive. Medicare give refunds back, but you're still out of pocket, you know. It can be a real financial woe for some people. But, you know, that's what I'd like to see the government do.